As with any marketing campaign, establishing clarity on your KPIs is one of the most important things you can do within your SEO strategy. So I just want to run through some of the most common KPIs that the SEO strategies will include, and also introduce a couple of alternative perspectives. Now, the most common KPI that people will look at is naturally rankings. So that's the first thing people will think about when it comes to SEO, is what are those top trophy phrases and how are we performing? Now, in the past, we would track potentially hundreds of different specific rankings because we used to build authority around particular key phrases. That's no longer the case. Now we build authority around the brand as a whole, which means that if the top 5 or 10 priority key phrases are performing well, then we can almost certainly assume that all the other key phrases are also performing well. So it's a slightly different perspective, and I would therefore encourage you not to waste hours and hours tracking, as I say, hundreds of different key phrases. The second thing to look at, of course, is the organic traffic that comes through the search engines. Now, very often this will actually provide a clearer, more comprehensive perspective on your search engine performance, particularly if you operate in a market that has a significant long tail, which means it's not dominated by a small number of short key phrases, but rather it's full of quite unpredictable, quite varied long phrases, and therefore following specific short tail ranking performances doesn't necessarily give you that much insight. You need to look at the picture as a whole. This, however, has a significant shortcoming, which is that when you look at that traffic, you might see the graph appearing to go up, but actually it might be that 99% of that traffic is arriving on pages that are never going to drive your headline objective. And this is particularly true when you have a large blog or a large resources section. So what I'd encourage you to do is to create a segment within analytics that isolates the traffic that's going to the pages that are going to drive that headline objective. Now, if this is a service website, they're going to be the service pages. If it's a product website, it's going to be the product pages, or perhaps certain category pages. But isolating that traffic is going to give you a far clearer indication in terms of the SEO performance from a commercial point of view. And what you'll find is that it probably represents a tiny proportion, a tiny fraction of the overall traffic volume, but it's that number, even if it's like 2% of the overall traffic, it's that number that is going to really determine whether or not this thing is a success. Now, that's not to say that the other traffic is worthless, it's just that it's driving a different kind of KPI. So it might be that actually on those pages, it's more about email capture. So you want a separate segment that captures all the traffic that's going to the blog, for example, and you'll just measure that in a slightly different way, and you'll assign probably a far smaller monetary value to each conversion made within analytics. So that's how I would encourage you to look at this. I think far too often, people, particularly within the SEO community, are guilty of focusing on vanity metrics or metrics that don't really determine commercial success. So yes, look at rankings, yes, look at total organic traffic, but primarily you want to be focusing on that headline objective and how effectively your SEO strategy is delivering that.